Max Verstappen told his championship is over after being taken out on the opening lap of the Austrian Grand Prix as Lando Norris leads home yet another McLaren 1-2. From Racing News 365, my name is Nick Golding, and I'm delighted to be joined, as always, by lead editor Ian Pox with the beautiful Styrian hillside behind you. Ian, that is not a bad background, my friend, and it's been not a bad day for McLaren. Got to start with the papaya outfit, a perfect bounce back for the team from Canada, and in particular for Lando Norris, who has topped every single session he has competed in Austria. And I mean, Oscar Piastri pushed him right until the end, the only team to be able to push every single lap. It came close almost to a collision on lap 20, but Oscar put his hands up, Andrea Stella praising him for immediately apologising. But for Lando and for McLaren, that is perfection.
It was the weekend that Lando Norris should only have really wished for, bearing in mind everything that happened 2 weeks ago in Montreal. Lando, as I pointed out on Thursday in his media session then, said this is a circuit he loves. This is a circuit where he is really comfortable. He really feels at home. It plays to his strengths. And boy, as we have seen over the course of this weekend, has it played to his strengths? Yes, there were one or two moments of consternation where he was battling with, of course, his teammate Oscar Piastri, and one almost heart-stopping moment you would have thought for Andrea Stella on the McLaren pit wall when Oscar locked up at turn 4 and nearly ran into the back of Lando Norris at that stage. That was very, very close indeed. But apart from that, there was a little bit of battling, of course, that went on between them. But overall, just a magnificent performance from Lando, and exactly what he needed this weekend to set himself straight, to set his mind straight, to prove to himself that what happened in Canada was just a blip, that he can go through an entire Grand Prix weekend pretty much blemish-free. Only one or two very minor things that you could really want to nitpick about Lando's performance, a couple of little lockups here and there, a little bit of one or two moments where he slightly ran wide. But overall, as you say, Nick, near enough perfection from Lando Norris. And what it's done now, of course, is close the gap on the Drivers' Championship standings, just 15 points between Oscar Piastri, still leading, and Lando Norris in second.
What it also means is with yet another McLaren 1-2 and the Ferraris in third and fourth, is that going into the British Grand Prix, McLaren now have, wait for it, a 207-point lead in the constructors' standings. A remarkable advantage, but let's move on to Red Bull on a home race. It will want to forget quicker than the speed of sound. Helmut Marko has described it as a black day for Red Bull. He has pinned Max Verstappen's championship as being over. Max, really unfortunate, it's got to be said, starting from 7th, actually made a very good launch from the line before he was taken out at turn 3 by Kimi Antonelli. A big error by Kimi. He immediately held his hands up, apologised to Max, and it's got to be said, actually, Max, not really very critical of Kimi, pointing out that, yeah, it was a mistake, but these things happen. All drivers make those type of mistakes. But, I mean, just to make the day even worse, Yuki Tsunoda, P16. Not a good day for Red Bull.
No, and you can understand why Helmut Marko has come out and said the comments that he has done. But from Max Verstappen's perspective, yes, that gap now is considerable to Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, of course. But, as I say, Max taking it race by race. I asked him directly, what do you feel now about your championship? That's quite a gap, as I pointed out to him. And as I say, he wants to take it race by race just to see where things are going to go. He's still waiting for that extra bit of performance from the Red Bull. He's still confident that it can be delivered on the car. Is it going to come too late, though? If anything does change on that RB21 anytime soon, we've got to wait and see, of course. But yes, overall, for Red Bull, this was a very dark day. It's a good phrase, actually, from Helmut Marko. Can't really better that. A very dark day for them. One they will want to forget. At this, of course, their home track. And, of course, outside of the Dutch Grand Prix, this is the race where, of course, you will get more Max Verstappen fans than anywhere else. Pretty much grandstands adorned with people wearing their orange T-shirts, and the Orange Army, of course. So, yes, for them, they will all be heading home feeling pretty miserable, having watched their man wiped out, as you say, at turn 3 by a a hair-raising moment for Kimi Antonelli. Yes, he held his hands up. He's had a conversation with Max. He's apologized. Max naturally, graciously accepting that, and very diplomatic in the pen when he was talking about what happened with Kimi. Kimi just, for the record, simply stated that he made a mistake with the balance of his brakes at the start, and that led to the almighty lockup and almost taking out one of the people we're also going to talk about in this video, almost taking out initially Liam Lawson. It had quite an impact on Liam, but what a recovery drive. But yes, ultimately taking Max Verstappen completely out of the race.
Yes, not a good day for Kimi and a difficult day for Mercedes in general with George Russell in fifth, but a slightly better day, it's got to be said, for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc was quickly overtaken by Piastri, dropping him to third, where he went on to finish. Lewis Hamilton in quite a lonely fourth, but Lewis did point out after the race that he was nursing some brake issues. Talk about that, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those that at least Ferrari came into the race on the back of a very good qualifying performance. Second on
Yeah.
the grid for Charles, fourth on the grid for Lewis. That was his best grid slot since joining Ferrari this season. And it was a case of, right, what's this brand new floor, this complete new floor, as quite a considerable upgrade on the SF25, going to do for Ferrari's race pace? As we saw, not a tremendous amount. Certainly not when you put it in context of the McLaren performance, of course. But at least Ferrari has come out of this Grand Prix weekend as the second best team. They'd moved back up to second in the championship standings again in the Constructors' Championship. But as you say, one hell of a long way adrift of McLaren. But as you say, for the McLaren boys, it was a relatively lonely race for the pair of them once the initial ding-dong over the first couple of laps had evaded them, shall we say. And for Lewis, yes, he had a few brake issues, something that he had to nurse throughout the Grand Prix. Didn't have a massive impact on his race overall. It was just something that he had to coax through and work through before getting to the checkered flag. Checkered flag, of course, for Ferrari this weekend, where there was this Sunday, should I say, this Sunday, where there was no team principal, Fred Vasseur, deputy team principal, Jerome D'Ambrosio, taking charge on the pit wall this Sunday because Fred Vasseur had to fly home for personal reasons. So whatever those personal reasons are, Fred, we hope they can be resolved quite swiftly, and we'll see you back at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone this weekend.
Just to very quickly go through the top 10 from the Austrian Grand Prix. It was Lando Norris victorious, ahead of Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc in third, Hamilton fourth, George Russell in a lonely fifth. Hot weather again, a killer for Mercedes. And Liam Lawson, who we will discuss in a few moments, in an awesome sixth, a personal best for him. Fernando Alonso in seventh, ahead of the driver. He's, of course, part of his management team, Gabriel Bortoleto in eighth, Nico Hulkenberg ninth, and Esteban Ocon in P10. One midfield team, Ian, not featuring in that top 10 or in the classified results is Williams. A disaster for the Grove-based team. Carlos Sainz failing to even start the race in fiery fashion, has got to be said, before Alex Albon retired in the opening stages. A day to forget, not only for Red Bull, as we've mentioned, but also for Williams.
Yeah, a catastrophe for both teams. And yes, a big catastrophe for Williams. As we saw at the start of the race, Carlos bemoaned the fact that his car was stuck in first gear. There was an aborted start. We had to wait 15 minutes for the race to get going proper. But during that 15-minute hiatus, from normal race start to the new race start, we saw that Carlos did manage to get going again. He was given a bit of a push by the stewards, and at least that gave him a little bit of a bump start. But as I say, managed to get going. But as he came back round, his brakes caught fire at the end of the pit lane, because obviously in missing the start from the grid, that meant that he had to start from the pit lane. In waiting at the end of the pit lane, as he was doing at that particular time, the rear brakes caught fire. Marshals naturally were quickly on the scene, thankfully. Williams managed to push the car back towards the garage, but it was not pretty terminal. It was terminal. No need for any kind of adjective additionally on top of that. So, and then obviously, yes, Alex Albon, really good start actually, and he was running in sixth position. And you thought, okay, might be a bittersweet day this for Williams if Alex can get to the checkered flag in a reasonably good top 10 position. But unfortunately, no. What we understand is PU issues for that particular Williams. Now, it was PU issues that, of course, accounted for Alex in Canada. Now, whether Williams has tried to nurse that Mercedes PU through to this event, we're not quite sure. That's the understanding that we've got at this stage. And of course, now if it's failed again, we would assume that's going to mean a change going into the British Grand Prix weekend.
And Ian, we've got to finish with some feel-good stories. Liam Lawson in P6, top Red Bull family driver, of course, helped out by the fact of Max being taken out on the first lap, but an awesome result for Liam, but also an awesome result for Stake, both drivers in the points in P8 and P9. Some feel-good stories in Austria.
Yeah, let's start with Liam Lawson first. And really good start. And I'm going to tip my hat to Jake Nicol, our colleague on the racingnews365.com writing team. Liam Lawson is the first New Zealand driver to finish that high up since Chris Amon did it in the 1976 Spanish Grand Prix when he was fifth. So 49 years, a New Zealand driver, we've had to wait for that kind of result. So well done. Liam was just absolutely bouncing in the media and afterwards. Big grin on his face, and rightly so, because as you said, it's been a really difficult year for him. And he's waited and waited. Questions have been asked, even following his move from Red Bull to Racing Bulls. Is he going to try and rediscover some of the form that we'd seen through his two stints with the junior team that led to his promotion last winter to Red Bull? As I say, we've waited and waited. It's not quite come, but perseverance, patience has paid off for Liam. Thankfully, he's got the result that he's deserved. Hopefully for him, this will be a real turning point that's now going to launch him forward for the rest of the season. And this was not a one-off. I don't think it is. I think now Liam has built up a real good head of steam with this weekend, and things can only get better for him from here on in. And yes, let's get on to the two state boys. Gabriel Bortoleto, what a great late battle that we saw with his mentor, Fernando Alonso. Fernando, of course, the wily old fox, doing everything he could, everything in his rocker to defend from Gabriel on the few occasions that Gabriel made attempts to try and claim that position from Fernando. I did ask Gabriel actually in the pen, I said, is there anything you can learn from Fernando Alonso when you are in that kind of battle and you're behind him? And he did turn around and say, obviously, something to review later on when he's looking at the race. But yes, he can study the lines that Fernando takes, the moves that he's making, the moments when he can see when he's braking, and as I said, the lines that he's taking to the various corners, etc. So that's what a mentor and protege partnership is all about. And I'm sure Gabriel Bortoleto is going to learn a hell of a lot when he does come to rewatch that replay. And yes, Nico Hulkenberg as well, last on the grid. What a great performance from him. It's I'm just going to grab the stat, Nick, because I'm just going to get them off the top of my head rather than just going to look at them rather than trying to get them off the top of my head. So here we go. It's Stake's first double points finish since Qatar 2023, when they were P8 and P9 again with Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. Nico Hulkenberg is the first Sauber driver to score in 3 straight races since Valtteri had a 5-race run early in the 2022 season. And Nico's result today, it becomes only the only the 8th time in Sauber's 32-year history that a driver has climbed from 20th or lower on the grid to a top 9 finish in a Grand Prix. And that includes the team's time when it was known as Alfa Romeo and BMW Sauber. So quite some stats there that Stake managed to give us, and quite right. You know what? They've gone through a lot of pain, a lot of pain over this past year and a half in particular. So why not extol the virtues and roll out some great stats as to what they've done with that performance today. So well done, Stake, and well done, Liam Lawson.
Absolutely. Ian, amazing stuff. As always, of course, for those who are watching this F1 update, please do let us know in the comments below your thoughts on the Austrian Grand Prix. And is Helmut Marko right? Is that Max's title challenge done? If you can also smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, that would be absolutely amazing. You can join Ian, Sam Coop, and myself on Monday for the latest episode of our podcast. But until then, we'll see you later. Bye.
Take care as always, folks, and we'll be at the British Grand Prix next weekend, of course. See you then.